I felt very strongly about what Siss said about loving it because you sucked. And the reason why I really got into lacrosse is because all my boys played lacrosse but me. I was a hooper. Like I played ball. So when I started playing lacrosse, I was horrible. You know, played long stick. You know, probably looked like I was playing field hockey a little more than lacrosse. So it was just smacking the ball in the field. When I picked it up, I was trying to shoot that thing.
First of all, I just wanted to congratulate you all on All-Star. You know, many of you guys, it's multiple times, sometimes first time. We got a couple rookies here, but you guys have had iconic careers already, both in the World Games, Defensive Player of the tournament, MVP of the tournament. So I hope you guys feel good about this weekend and the season you put together and the career you're putting together. And with that, I really wanted to begin by talking about how you found the game. You guys are from all different parts around the country and different styles and upbringing. Why don't we start with you, Teeter?
I feel like I was born kind of into lacrosse. My dad had a 14-year professional career, and then for me, it was kind of just like, for the longest time I can remember, I've always had a stick in my hand. I remember, going to, his games, being the ball boy, just messing around, watching other guys. It was kind of like my favorite part of the week. Like even looking back through like every season throughout the year, fall, winter, spring, summer, there was never a time where I didn't have my stick in my hand, but there's also like never a time where like it was like a question like, did I want to play lacrosse? Did I not want to play lacrosse? Am I having fun? It was just like something that
It never was a question.
It never was a question. I just always played lacrosse since I was like 3 years old. I just feel like it was in my blood.
Yeah.
It was something for me that I was just like playing constantly, watching, or like being a ball boy, just running around. And then
I feel the same way as Jeff. Like, I feel like I was born with a stick in my hand. Both my parents played in college. My mom played at Towson. Dad played at Johns Hopkins. He was an All-American goalie. And then my dad was coaching at Hopkins like in the late 90s. So when I was like coming up as a kid, I was 7, 8 years old, on the sideline at Homewood, going in the locker room. Like I can still, in my head, like smell the locker room as a little kid. I was like, what does that smell?
Yeah,
you know how like a locker room smells? And like the music they were playing, I just thought like those guys were so cool. As like a 7, 8 year old, and I was like, oh my God, like this is what I want to be. Like I want to be a college lacrosse player.
Yeah.
And then growing up,
and you like visualize the whole thing too.
You feel it, you like feel the crowd, you're on the sideline. Like being on the field as such a young kid was, those guys were larger than life to me. So I was just kind of born into it. Growing up in Baltimore too, it's like, it's the primary sport there pretty much.
I want to know who started here the latest. Take a guess, right?
Yeah. Sixth grade.
Sixth grade?
I was third grade.
Third, 7th grade.
So okay, so
Got
Siss.
by 1 year.
So wrestler, lacrosse player at Lehigh.
Yep.
How'd you find lacrosse?
Yeah, so it was a little different, I think, in my scenario. I didn't grow up around it like you guys obviously wanted to. Growing up around any sport would have been awesome, but so my mother immigrated here when she was 16 from the Middle East, and sports wasn't really in her family, so wasn't really introduced through that. My father played basketball at Tennessee, but again, like growing up, I was always the smallest kid, if not like the largest kid, like weight-wise. So basketball wasn't in the cards for me there. So just really no introduction to basketball, and then on the mother's side, no real push for sports. And honestly, it's kind of a sad thing to say, but why I got introduced to sports, I went to a private Christian school till 6th grade and didn't make many friends. And my parents were like, look, this kid doesn't have any friends. We're going to go introduce him to a public school in 7th grade and get him into sports and hopefully make friends. So at the end of the day, it is kind of a weird, sad story, but I started playing sports to make friends. And we look at like a thing we did yesterday here in Louisville with Goals for Greatness and introducing the kids at a young age. Not only are you introducing them to sports, but people forget, like, you're introducing them to make friends, make relationships. Like, and that's the best part, because I'm sure you guys realize it, but some of your best friends you met playing sports, if not still your best friends.
100%.
And that's how I feel right now, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to play. But touching on starting to play lacrosse, it was the second sport I ever started doing. Started wrestling first. My uncle was an Olympic wrestler, and I kind of fell in love with it when I wasn't good at it. I was like this is something I'm not good at, and that's like interesting to me because as a good athlete could figure it out, whether it's wrestling, football, but those sports don't require as much skill per se. Like you can be a good athlete and be good in those sports, but lacrosse requires athleticism, skill, stick skills, whatever it may be.
Well, the number one reason why kids stop playing any sport is they're not good at it. And that's self-reported. It could be they're not having fun, but you're not having fun because you can't figure it out. And one of the things is like lacrosse participation around the world is never going to be soccer. Lacrosse is so hard to play. So my theory is that a lot of people turn over because they can't figure it out. But then once they figure it out, you wonder like, oh, why are lacrosse fans so obsessed? Why do lacrosse players like love the game so passionately? It's this really unique skill acquisition that puts you a part of a community that, you know, is very rare. It's like being an expert in any complicated field. That's my feeling. Did you struggle when you first started playing?
I felt very strongly about what Siss said about loving it because you sucked. Played long stick, probably looked like I was playing field hockey a little more in the cross, so it's just smacking the ball field. When I picked it up, I was trying to shoot that thing. So when I got moved to the offensive side of the field, I just wasn't good at lacrosse. So I think not being good at lacrosse and playing with all my boys who knew I was a good basketball player, a good football player, I couldn't be a slouch in the sport that those guys looked up to me in other sports. So I did the same thing I did when I was young. I dribbled the basketball. I threw the ball against the wall.
Okay, long stick to long stick.
That's what I was thinking about. I was like, could you imagine Miles playing LSM? Like he started with the pole.
A lot different than me with the height and weight and stuff like that. But
that's the beauty of it, though.
Yeah, I know.
Make it work.
But that's the reason why I kind of started playing lacrosse is football was my first sport. That's where my dad played, and I was not the biggest kid. So I couldn't, when I got the ball and I would run, I would always get caught from behind, and when I got hit hard. Lacrosse started happening, and like I fell in love with the sport. But as soon as I stepped on the field, it was like very easy for me. Like I actually started playing offense first, so I was like the exact opposite of Miles. Like I was playing attack and playing midfield, and I wanted to score the goals.
Yeah, I don't often hear the offense to defense. I often hear defense to offense.
No, I was offense, defense. Like because I wanted
That's why you
to
score a lot of goals.
Yeah, like I'm an offensive-minded, defender. Like I would rather have the ball on my stick and play offense than play defense, honestly. Which might be a little bit weird for me to say as an LSM, but I just love it. I loved scoring goals, and I went to my dad. I literally remember this. I went up to my dad after a tournament one time, and I was playing deep hole, and I was playing defense, and I was like, Dad, like, I want to be the one scoring the goals. Like, I want to play attack. And he was just like, you can't play attack. And I was like, no, like, I'm going to go out in the backyard right now. And I just started shooting with a short stick. Yeah. And I was like, tell the coach that I want to play attack next tournament. And I didn't score a single goal. And I was like, all right, I'm going to get this long stick back in my hand. And Ricky B was the first one to tell me, he's like, you should probably keep playing defense.
What resonates for you if I were to say there's two ways and it's not they're mutually exclusive to learn. There's visual learning, and then there's physical, so actually practicing. And so you're talking about both really, but visually, how did you guys think about growing up and playing the game?
Mikey Powell.
Yeah.
Highlight reel, 2 minutes, 34 seconds on YouTube. I probably have accounted for over 1,000 views.
Okay, yeah.
On that.
Over 1,000.
Over 1,000.
Yeah. Did that one include the flip?
Turn the corner and the dip and dunk was like, I was like, oh my gosh. And then I would just go out in the yard and try to be like Mikey. But I think to your point, like your question about like you learn visually or by doing it, like it's got to be a combination of both, right? You see something cool, like even like Teat, you in the All-Star game a couple years ago, the goal you scored on Burnlow where you like caught it on the low wing, like you're like everything's low and you just like float it high in the corner.
Loves to float.
I'm just trying. I like went out and tried that a million times. I was like, finally gave up on it. I was like, I don't think I can do that. And same thing with you, like the way you sweep and shoot with the stick of your ankles. Like tried that a couple times. I'm like, I don't know if I have that in my bag. But it's like, I think a really cool thing about where we're at with lacrosse is there's so much content being put out, especially of us at the pro level, that a young kid, a little kid, like can pick a person, pick a player, dissect them. You can see the slow-mo replay. Like, you have so much access to it. I mean,
That's a good point, Mark. Like even like the Jack Boyden kid did like the float finish.
Yeah.
And like I would be like coaching like my little brother's high school team, like
That was nice.
trying it on the goalie, and I'm like, this thing I could never do. Like that's just like to pull it off of like fake and then like float it and then still fake after it. It was like
For me, it's always out of the box, but it was Michael Jordan, it was Barry Sanders, it was Reggie Bush. That was sort of like my era. It was Reggie when he was at USC.
Reggie Bush.
And the way that he would turn
That
upfield,
shake.
but he would move laterally to go north south, but like all the way laterally. He would just keep cutting, and people would be like, "What? Like you're supposed to move forward." But that's how I visually thought about being an athlete.
I have some weird one. His name's Terry Brands, the head coach of Iowa Wrestling, and I'd say, yeah, it's funny. He's like my favorite athlete, but growing up watching this documentary, it was literally called Terry the Film. Him and his brother, twins, same age, they competing for a USA World Team spot. His brother ends up making it. He doesn't. Goes and lives in a cabin for like 6 months, just eats like moose meat and raw spaghetti, and he's just training for the next Olympics. And like me as a kid getting cut from the 7th grade All-Star game, and I'm like, I like totally understand where this guy's coming from.
Exactly. yeah.
And I'm like, I need to do what he's doing. But it sounds stupid right now, and again, it definitely was. But in that moment, I was like, this guy's going through hardship. He didn't make something he wanted to make. I didn't make my 7th grade All-Star game. Like, you're trying to find your spot and emulate over people you like. And I think it's really cool that we can do that with non-lacrosse players and just as athletes. And that's kind of what I wanted to touch on.
These inspirations come from random spots.
Yeah.
Where do you guys think the game has the ability to go? When I was growing up playing, no one was playing behind the back. It was considered showboating. Now you're seeing it every possession. What are some of the things that you think you might see in lacrosse as it continues to be played at the highest level in the next 10 or 20 years?
I mean, you look at these kids now, their skill level's way higher than what we were playing at. It's crazy. They're doing stuff that like I wouldn't even think of.
We saw it last week with Fields' goal.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
You know how many kids I've seen do that since then?
I think what Shamel Bratton showed in the semifinals 10 years ago, dodging behind his back, like that to me, I'm like, fuck, man, that's something I should have worked on more. Because that feel like going through your legs is going to be more disruptive versus a basketball. But if we're split dodging behind the back, if you're good enough, should feel like I forecast that happening quite a bit in the future.
Well, it's like the greatest non-goal of all time. Like it was the perfect
Shamel's,
move.
yeah.
Shamel's goal. Like and even Lyle's goal, almost goal in the World Games. Like on arguably the greatest defender of all time with Brody, like hammering him. Like has the wherewithal to be like going underneath and like pulls it here and then because the other thing that was in Denver. I'm in the crowd for that. And my dad goes, do you understand what like that dude's doing? Like he's like, no one's doing that. Like, and it's like that's the stuff. Like I think we're like Mark said, like we're kind of there.
Did you go to any Outlaws games growing up? Colorado boy.
That was every Saturday. Anytime it was any Saturday, the Outlaws were there, and we were in town and wasn't playing a tournament. I was in Invesco, like
Mundorf.
Brendan Mundorf,
Westy,
Jesse Schwartzman,
yeah, Lee Zink.
Bachlick, Lee Zink. Like those teams were spectacular.
Elaw, who's back?
Elaw's back on the Outlaws, which was awesome.
How old were you when Elaw first started playing?
I think when Elad, I think it was 2014. So I was like 15 years old. Like so I was like sophomore in high school. But also like even talking to Coach T this week about like the DU teams and how influential they were to like Colorado kids. Like showing up when I was in 7th grade watching DU beat Villanova like in the first round of the playoffs. Like you would have thought like the Beatles were in town for like lacrosse. People were filling Barton. Like it was awesome. People were like, what is this? Like. Yeah. People walking out like through campus like, what is this, like a soccer game? Like what is it? And it's like, no, this is like legit. Like
did you pick up the game through what? How did it come to you?
Yeah, no, for me it was like I always hung out with older kids in my neighborhood, like playing sports like basketball, football, whatever it was, and like one of my older neighbors like brought a lacrosse stick out and I was like, I think I have one of those in my room. It was like one of those like single plastic ones you can buy at like a toy store that's like this big and it like like if you use a real ball, it'll snap in a second. And that's like what happened. And I was like, I have one. I ran in, like started playing pass, like 2 passes in, snapped the head off. And I was like, went inside of me. I was like, Dad, we got to go to Dick's Sporting Goods. He's like, for what? I was like, I want a lacrosse stick now. And he's like, no. He's like, you're not, he's like, are you actually going to play it? And I was like, yeah, maybe. And he's like, all right. He's like, we'll talk about it next week. And like, I came back and I was like, I want one. Yeah. And he took me to the Lax World in Denver. And he saw the prices of the sticks, and he's like, "Are you sure about this, dude?" He's like, your mom's gonna kill me if she finds out." And I was like, "I'm in." And then from there on, like, I just fell in love with it, for the point of like, I played other sports, played football, played basketball, still played baseball. Like, my dad was a baseball guy growing up, so I played baseball all the way to 8th grade. Yeah. And like, that was kind of my decision going into high school. Like, do I play baseball? Do I play lacrosse? And it was like. But like every season where there's basketball season, like I'd always drift back to lacrosse. But like in lacrosse season, I never drifted to the other sports. Like I didn't care about anything else during lacrosse season. Like it was just lacrosse. And that's when I kind of figured it out. I was like, yeah, this is my sport.
Brennan, everyone, like the stories out there, like, you know, you were one of the best players in the world when you were in 8th grade. What was your experience like? Is there untold truths to like, hey, I actually liked playing hoops, or like, you know, Long Island guy? What was your experience like with the game?
Yeah, so Long Island obviously has a heavy influence of lacrosse, but I didn't start till like 2nd grade. My mom's from the city. My dad played football. My mom didn't even know what lacrosse was, so I wasn't born with a stick or anything, but my sister started playing in middle school, and I saw her. She played goalie, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I just decided I wanted a lacrosse stick similar to Asher. Asked my mom, can we go get a lacrosse stick? Got it, and I sucked, and really? I didn't like it at all. And it's a frustrating sport, and we've been talking about it, like there's good times and bad times, but I think I was definitely big into football, but something about lacrosse really, I kept going back to it, and one day it just kind of clicked for me. I was like that with a lot of different sports. I was a pretty clumsy kid, and I would be really bad at sports, and then it would click for me somehow. And like I went from being the worst kid on the team, and one game just having like 4 goals, and it just kind of like, from there I fell in love with it.
How do you think about coaching the game to younger kids?
Yeah, so I'm pretty laid back. I give them the groundwork. I tell them all that I know and like what works for me, and then I'm like, but have fun with it. Like when I give them a drill, I'm like, I give them a lot of options. Playing with that like kind of freedom, I think as you get older, it just starts to like naturally happen in game. If you rep out all these like unscripted events, it just naturally, if you do it enough, it becomes like your body just takes over your mind. Like you don't think about it anymore in the game.
You guys are gonna go play and show the skill that we're talking about in a few hours, but perhaps like the biggest challenge mentally that you face in a game or at a season level. And it is, for me, when that fracture happens, where I'm thinking about the play that I just fucked up and I'm not present.
I mean, as soon as you said that, it came to my mind, like I haven't scored a goal yet in this season, and I've had some pretty good shots and 10 yards from the goalie, and I'm hitting them and stuff, and it's like, it's that play right there where it's like I come off the field and I'm like just thinking about like I could have put it anywhere else and it would have gone in. So it's like when stuff goes wrong, like it's all about like trying to bounce back and trying to get to that next play mentality, and that's what I learned from Coach Marr at Albany, and it's like what I learned from being on Haudenosaunee. It's like it's just about just playing and like being free, and like if you do make a mistake, like it's not the end of the world. Like it's just the game. Like you're gonna have ups and downs. You're not gonna play perfect all the time. So it's like, for me, like not scoring in the game, it's like I can make it up by getting the ground ball the next face-off, or like I can make it up by not letting my guy score that next time he dodges me. So it's like just little things like that to try to just bounce back. It's all about that bounce back and next play mentality.
One thing that I probably battle the most is probably the pressure, and it's always been pressure I put on myself. Obviously, you know, when I stepped on the field at Duke University freshman year, my goals were very small. It was like, I want to play in every game, want to score a goal here and there. And that's cool with me. I help my team win. And then obviously, you know, we won a national championship, so it was just like a little more spotlight. Sophomore year, won a national championship, so a little more spotlight. And then you get put into the pro game and the spotlight's really on you, and then you kind of have this, you know, you have this responsibility to carry, you know, do your part in carrying a sport. And then, you know, while all that's happening and like the, you know, that everyone can see, now I'm in between the ears putting a lot more pressure on myself to perform. And, you know, I've had great seasons, good seasons, great seasons, then I have a down season. Similar to the bounce back, you know, you're talking about one play, I'm talking about, you know, a season and, you know, the narrative, like what's my legacy gonna be after that season? Because, you know, it's, you know, everyone knows that I can play to a high level, and when I don't, no one has to tell me about it.
I mean, yeah, like the game is just so humbling, you know, like you can have a great week, and then, you know, the next week you can just fall flat on your face and have turnovers and not play the way that you want to. Like, I think that's why we all love it at the end of the day. Like, I said this to our team, like, if you knew you were gonna go out and score 8 goals a game, after a while, like, it wouldn't be as fun, you know? And the challenge of playing against some of the best players in the world, like every week, it keeps you humble.
I think winning is really hard. I think it's not easy. I think that's kind of the first thing I thought of is like, you can win as many games in the regular season as you want throughout your career. If you don't win the last one, then it's just like, chalk it up as a loss. So I think that definitely takes a toll, and I think that's the hardest part about, you know, playing. And something you take, you know, a lot of pride in is, you know, winning doesn't come easy.
It's so crazy. This is your 4th year in the league. You guys know who Lamine Yamal is? You guys aren't watching the Euros. Come on, man. He's the 16-year-old for Spain. Lamine Yamal. Yeah, I mean, greater impact than Messi had as a 16-year-old. He had probably the goal of the tournament to put Spain through, and he's 16. So Teat was a teenager playing at the highest level with Canada. I remember it's like, fuck is this guy? In 2014, starting.
Yeah.
18 years old.
Or 2018 games.
2018.
Yeah, in Israel.
Fucking
yeah.
I started playing in. Yeah, right. I was like, no, it was one of those 2014. Yeah, it was 2010 for me. So 18 years old, started playing with Team Canada. You've played in 3 or
2 and U19.
2 and a U19, and now just his 4th year in the PLL. Man, my 4th year playing pro, I was like, I still felt like a rookie. This guy's logged some miles. That's great. Appreciate you all.